Hello, this is Tip Top Gaming here today with another video. Now, in today's video, I'm going to be combining two things that I love, Marvel and Magic the Gathering. More specifically, I'm going to be combining Captain America, the First Avenger, and Magic, and turning it into a set. So if you guys didn't see the last video, in the last video I turned Iron Man into a set, and there should be a card right now, right here, where you can see that. But yeah, why don't we just jump right into this? Just so you guys know, this isn't a full set, the Captain America set. Actually, all of the cards from all of these videos are going to be in the same set, and it's going to be labeled Magic the Marveling, or Marvel the Gathering. One of the two. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. So you'll notice that it actually says there are 35 cards in this set. But that's because it's including the Iron Man one as well. And since the last one, where the artist normally goes, I put the name of the movie so you can tell which card, what cards are referencing what movies in case an item shows up twice, like the Tesseract, which will have a slightly different name in future movies, but will appear in future movies. Alright. So why don't we again start with the mythics. So of course we have Steve Rogers. He's a 4-cost 1/1, which seems to be a common theme, and you can pay 3 to put a +1/+1 counter on Steve Rogers. If Steve Rogers has 4 or more +1/+1 counters on him, exile him and return him to the battlefield transformed into Captain America. So the idea here is that he's this really scrawny kid, but when you beef him up, he becomes Captain America. And you'll notice some synergy within the set that helps Steve Rogers turn into Captain America quicker. If you guys didn't see the last video, a lot of characters that undergo transformations, they will have a flip card. So you'll notice this one transformed into Captain America. And again, Captain America and Iron Man are like really hard to design because there's so many versions of them. So if you're not happy with how this design is, let me know in the comments down below and let me know what you think a Captain America should do. But this is just named Captain America. It might get renamed to Captain America First Avenger. Depends on how I decide to name the future versions of Captain America. But he is a 6/6 with Vigilance. And it says, prevent all damage that be dealt to Captain America. The idea is that he blocks everything with his shield, so you try to shock him. Nope, he's not going to take damage. But if you try to murder him, he can still take damage. Spells that target spells or permanents you control cost 2 more to cast. So if they try to murder something, it's actually going to cost them 5 mana instead of 3, which is pretty major. Again, it's kind of like he's deflecting things, and that's kind of what this Captain America does, is he's, if you notice, he's blue-white, so he's kind of control-y in that way. And it also does something which I didn't see in a lot of cards, which increases the cost of spells that target spells you control. So, oh, you have a 2-cost counter spell? Oh, but now it's a 4-cost counter spell. Hope you were expecting that. So, yeah. Now that's Captain America. He's pretty simple. I enjoy him. I enjoy this design of him. I think there might be some changes that could be done, but I think overall it's relatively good. Yes. So, next let's get into the villain. The villain, of course, is Johann Schmidt. And, of course, he also has a flip card when he turns from Johann Schmidt to Red Skull. So, he's a 3/3 legendary creature, human villain. So, he's already a villain before he flips. And it says, when he enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 red and black human soldier token named Hydra Agent. And then whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a victory counter on Johann Schmidt. If Johann Schmidt has 5 or more victory counters on him, exile him and return him to the battlefield transformed into Red Skull. So this kind of mirrors the idea of Captain America or Steve Rogers, where he has to get a certain amount of counters on him. However, in Steve Rogers' case, it's actually making him stronger, where in Johann Smith's case, it's just he wins and then he turns into Red Skull. Now, Red Skull, he's a 5/5 that says, whenever Red Skull attacks, create a 2/2 red and black human soldier token named Hydra Agent that is tapped and attacking. Which might seem kind of weak, especially saying that Johann Schmidt comes out turn 4, assuming you play a mana each turn and have the right colors, and then you have to kill 5 creatures, and then you get, a 2/2, but here's where you'll see. All creatures you control have Death Touch, and if a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. So the idea here is he has all this Tesseract machinery that kind of vaporizes things, so it's kind of like it's being exiled. And instead of making it so whenever something deals combat damage to a creature an opponent controls, it gets exiled, instead all creatures have Death Touch, and then if a creature an opponent would control die, exile it instead. So that it also works for like murder spells. So murder goes from to destroy target creature to exile target creature. So basically, when he attacks, create a 2/2 red and black human soldier token named Hydra Agent that's tapped and attacking with Exile Touch. And of course, Red Skull also has Exile Touch. So it's pretty crazy. You don't want to block him because you can't even recur it. I think it's fun. I like the card. And what kind of cool about it is that Captain America is immune to this because he prevents the damage that would be dealt to him. So, yeah. He kind of beats... He has an advantage over Red Skull where he nullifies the effect. And I kind of tried to do that where the two hero cards, the hero... If the hero wins in the movie, they have a slight advantage. So, for instance, in the last one, Obadiah Stane, his Ironmonger suit, gets a disadvantage when blocking flying creatures. So, he has an advantage over Iron Man, but he's still powerful. Or he has a disadvantage over Iron Man. Alrighty, the last and final mythic is, of course, the Tesseract. The Tesseract is a card that still probably needs some balancing and might get renamed to Tesseract, I don't know, something, Tesseract Hydra's Tesseract, something, so that way it can appear with other abilities later, but for now it's just labeled Tesseract. It's a 6-cost legendary artifact, and it says blue, exile target creature, return it to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. This can also be an opponent's creature, it can be your creature. The idea here is it's the space stone, so it actually warps you away, and then you come back. And then similar, whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, you may pay 2. If you do, return it to the battlefield at the beginning of the next upkeep. And this is kind of an interesting ability I haven't really seen on cards. When it leaves the battlefield, so it's exiled, return it. Killed, return it. Bounced to your hand, return it. Put into your library, return it. So, it's interesting. I don't know if I like how the ability works, but I think it's overall pretty good. Either way, now let's get into the rares. So we're going to start with Arnim Zola. Arnim Zola is a 6-cost 3/3 legendary creature human villain, and it says other villains you control have +1/+1, because he's kind of like the scientist guy in the background who's boosting Red Skull, and instead of just being like Red Skull gets +1/+1, it's all villains, so you can incorporate this with other villains. He is a scientist, so he does have that blue, because I'm trying to, red and black are the colors of the villains, blue and red are the colors of, science, so on and so forth. And then he also says whenever a villain deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles 2 cards from his or her hand. Again, with the exile theme. He's also Grixis colored, and that happens a lot in Grixis. Alrighty, the next one is Captain America's Shield. It is a red, white, and blue artifact. I had to do it. And it said equip 7 or equip to hero 5. So it costs 2 less to equip if you're equipping it to a hero. And equipped hero has +3/+6, so it does help you attack, because obviously it helps Captain America attack, but it's also a super defensive thing, and reach. So basically it gets +3/+6 and reach. And then if the equipped creature is a hero, they gain Vigilance, First Strike, and Hexproof. So basically they become a god. And if you equip this to Captain America, he becomes a 9/12. A 9/12 with reach, vigilance, first strike, hexproof. I guess part of the thing that it doesn't really work well is the fact that Captain America doesn't take damage, so the defense boost doesn't help. But it does give him vigilance, first strike, and hexproof, so I think it's fine. The next rare is one that was an uncommon for a long time, and I'm like, well, maybe I can make this rare. It was between this and Bucky making it rare, but this is Chester Phillips. He is less known in the movie. He's not that important. I mean, he plays the military commander, but he says he's a 4/4 for 5 with vigilance, and whenever a soldier enters the battlefield under your control, just draw a card. So I think this guy could easily get demoted to uncommon, and depending on how the layout works out later on in the set, he might get demoted. Of course, if I make changes to previous cards, I will mention them in future videos. So like in the next video where I talk about Thor, you might see him get demoted to uncommon. Alrighty, so the next rare is Peggy Carter. She plays a very similar role to Pepper from the last video. Now, Pepper last time was a 4-cost. She is a 3-cost, and she's white. Has 3 white mana. She's a legendary creature, human soldier, 2/4. Whenever she enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield that was put there this turn. All heroes and soldiers you control get +1/+1. So it's similar to Arnim Zola in the fact that they boost things. However, this gives it to both heroes and soldiers, because you'll notice that Captain America actually isn't a soldier. He is one, but three creature types just didn't work. So she also boosts heroes, and then she has a very white ability of returning things from the battlefield that were put there this turn. That's been printed a lot recently. Alrighty, and that looks like it for the rares. Yeah. Alrighty, so next let's talk about uncommons. Yes, the first uncommon is Abraham Erskine. He is the scientist who's in charge of giving Captain America the Super Soldier Serum. He's a 4-cost 2/2, a legendary creature human. The reason these are all legendary, even though I don't think they're powerful enough to be legendary, is because they're specific named characters, and so I feel like they kind of have to be legendary. It's tap, put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature you control. If a counter would be put on a soldier or hero you control, put that many +1. So this basically says tap, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Captain America, which if you notice, would then help him turn into Captain America. And so that's kind of why he does what he does. He helps get the flip to work. Alrighty, so the next uncommon is Bucky Barnes War Soldier. So he does have a little subtype War Soldier to kind of show before he was Winter Soldier. So he might get a flip card in a future where he goes from Bucky Barnes to Winter Soldier, but that's not in this movie, so he's just War Soldier. He's a 4/4 human soldier, and I do think that he will end up becoming a rare, but we'll see. When he enters the battlefield, he deals combat damage equal to his power to target creature, which isn't super. I mean, this is a green ability, so you enter the battlefield, do that. Howling Commandos, which is the group Captain America was in, they fall under green, with a couple of them having other colors. And they're all uncommon because, they didn't feel like they would be rare because there's so many of them. You can tap, exile Bucky Barnes, War Soldier, and return another target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Then you return Bucky Barnes from exile to your graveyard. The reason you have him exile himself is because I don't want exiling Bucky Barnes to be part of the spell. It has to be part of the cost, so that way if the ability is counterspelled, you lose Bucky Barnes. But also, I don't want him to be able to return himself, so you have to. I guess I could have done other creature, but I feel like this is how a real Magic card would be worded. Yeah, so that's him. Next, we have Dum Dum Dugan, which, if you notice, is a mix of green and white. It's a 3/3 with reach, and whenever a creature you control dies, you gain 1 life. I think this is powerful. You know, it's kind of a Johnny's welcome on a creature, but inverted, so when they die, you gain a life. Honestly, a lot of the Howling Commandos, when looked up their biography, they're like, skills, good with the gun. So I'm like, okay, reach. What else? Okay, I guess I get to just make something up. Some of them do have more logic to it, but this one was just like, okay, he's green and white, I guess some sort of healing ability. Next, we have Gabe Jones. He's a 4-cost 4/4 and with reach, because he's good with guns, apparently. Whenever a soldier you control is targeted by a spell, Gabe Jones gains +2/+2 and hexproof until end of turn, so he just gets stronger and it's harder to hit him. Yeah. Next, we have Heinz Kruger, which is probably the most obscure character here. He is a random spy who is killed within the movie, and he kind of infiltrates and gets the super seer. He gets to see Captain America turn into the super soldier. And of course, since he's a spy, he's blue and black, and he has a morph cost of 3, so you can put him down for 3 and then turn him face up. And whenever he's turned up face up, you may switch Heinz Kruger with another target creature that is currently attacking or blocking. So, say you block or you swing with a 1/1, they block with a 2/2, then you can flip up Heinz Kruger and turn the 2/2 into 3/3, or, I guess theoretically you could target a creature that you don't own, and then you gain control of that creature. This just allows for some fun interactions. Next, we have Howard Stark. He's a 3 cost, of course, blue and red, because he's a scientist, and he says artifact spells you cast cost 2 less to cast, which helps you get out not Captain America's shield, because it doesn't require any generic, but it's just a generic scientist thing. And then you can pay 5 and tap it to search your library for a card named Captain America's shield and put it into your hand. So he does help you get out Captain America's shield. Next, we have Jacques de Dernier. He is a 2 red, red, green, green, because he's an explosive expert, and whenever he enters the battlefield, create 2 colorless artifact bomb tokens with tap, sacrifice, bomb, deal 4 damage to target creature. So you will notice there is a bomb token, and of course it just has that text on it. And that's what he does. So he basically creates 2 removal spells. He does 8 damage to target creatures when he enters the battlefield, so I think he's pretty good. He's a little expensive. However, on the opposite end, we have James N. Fallsworth. He's a 2 cost 1/2, and he says tap, add green. If you control 3 or more soldiers, add 2 green instead. He is a tactical commander, and so I figured he would help get out soldiers, and the more soldiers that are around him, the more efficient he is. So that's kind of where that ability came from, and I figured, hey, you probably need some ramp. Next, we have Jim Morita. He is a 4 cost black and green legendary creature human soldier. With reach and death touch. Whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you may have Jim Morita fight target creature you don't control. So he has death touch. It's a May trigger. So basically, if he gets through, he gets to kill something. Interesting. He does get that black in there. Then we have Super Soldier Serum. It's a green and blue spell. Now, this was originally green or blue and red because it's sciencey, but I figured I would stick to magic on this one and boost, green and blue are really good with counters. So it says put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. If the targeted creature is Steve Rogers or Bucky Barnes, they gain 2 additional +1/+1 counters. If you noticed, Bucky Barnes is not the name of this Bucky Barnes, and that's because this will focus on the other Bucky Barnes, who will also have a similar advantage to having +1/+1 counters. So if you play Steve Rogers and then play Super Soldier Serum on him, he flips to Captain America instantly. So I thought that was a cool interaction, but it also isn't just exclusive to Captain America, so it makes it much more usable. Alrighty, no, unlike Iron Man, where there was only one generic card, which was temporary paralysis, Captain America does have a couple more. So we're going to go over the commons now. We have Captain America's Compass, which is a 2 cost artifact that says tap and add to colorless. And then you can pay 2 white, white, and blue, blue to search your library and or graveyard for a card named Steve Rogers, reveal it, and put it in your hand. You also have to sacrifice Captain America's Compass, so you can't just keep doing this, but yeah, it's basically the pepper of this, or at least the pepper in terms of the fetch card inside of this. Next, we have Fall to Ice. Of course, this is a reference to Captain America being put in the ice. It's a 3 cost enchantment aura, enchant creature, tap enchanted creature doesn't untap during your untap step. Pretty generic card. Printed a lot, but I turned it into a Captain America card. Then we have Noble Sacrifice, which is again similar to another card. It's a 1 cost sorcery. As an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice creature, destroy target creature. If the sacrifice creature was a hero, exile that creature instead. So Bone Splinters was the original version of this card, where it was just as an additional cost to cast the spell. As an additional cost to cast the spell, destroy target creature. But this one has the clause, if you sacrifice the hero, exile the creature instead. That's kind of just to make it better than Bone Splinters and maybe be used over something like Spark Harvest. It also, if you're willing to sacrifice your heroes, which so far have been very powerful cards, it must be a big threat. So you might want to exile that. And that's it for the set. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one, where I will be going over another movie. Of course, if you guys want to have any suggestions, let me know in the comments down below, whether it's for changes to cards I've already gone over or ideas for future cards. Leave those in the description or the comments. See you guys in the next one. Bye.